VTRN Sports 93.3 FM or the VTRN Sports app. Open VTRN Sports on your smart speaker or stream live on YouTube. Time to get ready for your day with the morning warm-up with Trey, Lyle, and Ty Tracy.
7:03 on this Wednesday, April 16th. Welcome to the morning warm-up on this April 16th. Before we begin the show, I do, on this day, always reflect on what happened on this date in 2007 in Blacksburg, Virginia. And, 32 people losing their lives, 23 more getting injured. And want to just send a prayer for those people today. My thoughts with them and the entire Virginia Tech community, being part of that community, going to that school today that always sticks with us. I think it sticks with anyone in the state of Virginia. It's a moment in life where you definitely know where you were when it happened, but we are now going to spend the rest of this hour, as an escape for you, and hopefully talk about sports in a fun way. Got a great show lined up for you. Got Bryson Gordon on a little bit later to talk a little bit about Liberty, talk about the Masters as well. And Phillips here, Ty's here as well. And let's get into it with everything he missed last night. But again, thoughts and prayers to my beloved Virginia Tech community as we start the morning warm-up. But now, let's get to In Case You Missed It.
Keeping up with sports 24/7 takes some serious effort, especially when you're sleeping. Don't worry, the morning warm-up stays alert around the clock. Now here is everything you missed last night.
Everything you missed last night, and guess what? I called it yesterday. Jaden OTTO, he went to Oklahoma. He officially committed to Oklahoma. The school even announced it. They also landed a nice offensive line commit from Stanford as well. So I'm assuming a John Mateer, Jaden Knott backfield will create a better offense next year for Oklahoma. Will that mean they will be better in the SEC? I don't know, because we'll see how they are on the lines of scrimmage, but I do like this move for Oklahoma, getting Jaden Knott, who's maybe, he was hurt a lot last year. He's a really, 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 really good running back. He is. So I think this is a good get for Oklahoma. As for Mike Young, continuing to add to his staff, Nelson Hernandez is announcing as the general manager of the team. Hokies getting up with the modern times. He ventures from West Virginia, ironically, where he worked with Chester Frazier, who just got hired as well. He also had previous stops at Oklahoma, Fresno State, LSU, and VCU with Will Wade. Ed's guy, Ed's favorite coach. Wright State, Clemson, and Utah State as well. And transfer portal news for Virginia Tech, Davey Belfour, son of MMA legend Vitor Belfour, plans to enter the transfer portal. So the dream tag team we had is the ass-kicking team, I would like to call them, as Davey Belfour and Rex Steiner. Which were if we got their fathers, which would have been Vitor Belfour and Scott Steiner, the former wrestler.
Some awesome names.
Do you know who Scott Steiner? You don't know who Scott Steiner is.
Know the name. That's all I know.
Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner. And then you don't know who Vitor Belfour is?
I do not.
Vitor Belfour fought in the UFC. He actually was he was about 5 seconds away from beating John Jones with an armbar, but John Jones got out of it and then beat him. This was when Vitor was he was under TRT when it was legal, which is just Google that. Basically, it's steroids, but not steroids. Just saying. But hey, still, Vitor Belfour was a Pride champion, UFC champion, so he's not he's a bad dude. He's a UFC Hall of Famer for a reason. So Davey Belfour entering the portal. And if you look at it with Pop Watson staying, it's just a too loaded of a quarterback room. So someone had to kind of, escape and enter the portal. And it appears that Davey Belfour is the choice. My guess is he'll head to a Group of 5 school And that's that. All right, let's get to the play-in. Last night, the Cole Anthony game happened. Magic 120, Hawks 95. Trey Young gets frustrated and gets ejected with 4:48 left in the fourth quarter, excuse me. And Cole Anthony just kind of carries the way for a Magic team that has struggled all season offensively. And he came off the bench to drop 26 with 6 assists to lead the Magic to a 120-95 win over the Hawks. Paulo had 17 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. Wendell Carter with 19. Anthony Black with 16. They will take on the Boston Celtics in the first round and probably get done in 5 games. Just going to go out on a limb and say that. And, yeah, I mean, this was more about Trey Young looked like the Magic or the Hawks got it close at one point. They got it to 70, closest was 75-70 with about a minute left in the third, and then the Magic just slowly pulled away late. Trey Young did not look great down the stretch. As mentioned, he took frustrations out on the refs and got ejected. And Cole Anthony was awesome in that game, dropping 23. Franz Wagner with 13 boards to lead the way for the Magic on the glass. You know, the Magic have size that could, with Jonathan Isaac, Franz Wagner, and Paulo Banchero, that could be an issue for the Boston Celtics, but I really don't think they will. But in a game that I thought was actually going to be a blowout, that wasn't. I got to give credit where credit's due. Grizzlies only fall to the Warriors 121-116. Steph Curry scored, I believe, was the 15 of the last 17 points for the Warriors. A lot of that was late free throws. But you know, Jimmy Butler was like, "Oh, it's the playoffs. I got to play well again." 38, 7, and 6 to lead the way. Steph had 37. The Warriors look great. They you know, Ja rolled his ankle late in the third quarter and didn't come back till late in the fourth, but you got to give the Grizzlies credit. They kept fighting. They're going to probably blow out the team that they play, whether it's the Kings or the Mavericks. Those two teams are field DOA. You know, they're dead man walking teams, especially the Mavericks. I would argue the Kings as well. But give credit where it's due. Bane led the way for the Grizzlies with 30 points. Jaren Jackson at 18 of his own. Ja drops 22. Edie's size helped him. He had 14. But yeah, Warriors win 121-116. Set up an interesting matchup with the Rockets, and that's where I really wanted to talk about this. Rockets-Warriors is very interesting because if you go back about a week and a half ago, they played each other in a game where this game was on April 6th, so 10 days ago to be exact. And so a week and a half ago. Look at me being a genius. Rockets 106, Warriors 96. It was a game where Steph did not look great because Amen Thompson, who has been phenomenal this season and is a freak of freak athletes, just locked him up and put him in hell all game. And this young team with Ime Udoka facing the Golden State Warriors in the first round. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I feel like this is a series that could go down the middle, honestly. The Rockets having such a young core, being led the way by Dylan Brooks. So he's on the Rockets, right?
I wouldn't say they led by Dylan Brooks,
but
he's not their best player.
Yeah, the scrappiness and just defensive annoyance from this team, I feel it could definitely. When you think of the Warriors, you think of Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry
and Draymond.
Of course.
Don't forget Draymond.
Yeah, and I just think they're going to cause them problems just down the stretch. They might be in a situation where you see the Warriors just slowly start to pull off in the series, but it's definitely going to be interesting at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. This series, kind of like the rest of the West series, outside of what the 1-8 is going to be with the Thunder, I could see either team winning. I could see, if you look at it, I could see either the Nuggets or Clippers winning. I could see the T-Wolves or the Lakers winning, and I could see the Warriors upsetting the Rockets. I will say this. I think the fact that the Warriors are not going to have a week off, if they lost this game, it would be even worse. Like, they definitely needed the rest. But it's an interesting matchup with the Rockets because I think the Rockets stylistically, because they have and I'm not even looking at Fred VanVleet or Dylan Brooks. I'm looking at Şengün. I'm looking at Amen Thompson. I'm looking at their young wings that will provide a lot of issues for the Warriors. You look at it, they could go double big with Steven Adams and Şengün, which I think Şengün is going to give Draymond Green problems. This man, they call him Baby Jokic for a reason. He's really good. He was an all-star this year, but Tari Eason is going to be a defensive nightmare for them. You got to throw in Cam Whitmore, obviously Amen Thompson, who is just a star. You have Jabari, whatever they get from Jalen Green, and then you have obviously Dylan Brooks, who defensively is great. And then, I think Fred VanVleet is clearly not scared of the Warriors. I mean, who did he beat to win the title? Granted, that series probably a little different if injuries don't go the other way, but still, he's played the Warriors in the finals and beat them. Still a big thing. So I don't know exactly who I'm picking. I'm honestly leading the Rockets, but I would not be shocked if we sit here and we're talking about, we're going to have a Lakers Warriors round 2. Yeah. So
that's what everybody wants. That's what's going to feed families.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I think it's way more likely the Lakers advance than the Warriors advance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more because of the fact that the Warriors had to play an extra game, and they're an older team than the Lakers. Like, yes, the Lakers have the oldest player in LeBron James, but their other two reliable players are 25 and I want to say Reeves is 26, 27. Like,
Still pretty young, yeah.
Austin Reeves is 26. So compared to 37-year-old Steph Curry, 35-year-old Steph Curry, and 30, like Curry is 37 and Jimmy is 35. Like, that's your two old player. Like,
Draymond's like 50.
It feels like he's 50, but he's I think he's 30. I think he's 37, 36. I don't know. But the point being, Rockets are the young team with no experience, and the Warriors are an old team with
championships.
So it's an interesting series, a very interesting series. And I think it's going to be a fun one to play out. I really don't want to talk much about, as mentioned, about Magic Celtics. Let's put it this way. The Celtics, to me, they're going to shoot a lot of threes. They're the favorites to me, they're still the favorites in the East, even though Cleveland's the 1 seed. And probably, spoiler alert, on Friday, I'm probably picking the Celtics to make the finals. Unfortunately, I don't like the Celtics, but I just think, I will say this. The Magic are built defensively, are built well to guard the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, their offense sucks, and they will not keep up with the Boston Celtics. But they have Paulo, they have Franz, they have Jonathan Isaac, which he'll probably play like 10 minutes, but still, he's a great defensive player. Like, if they had Jalen Suggs, they'd probably be the 4 or 5 seed actually in the East, and this would be a different story. They're missing their best defensive guard. That's going to hurt them. And the Magic are still got a really good young core. They probably wanted more from KCP. But just to show how interesting the Golden State Rockets series is and people think about it, lines are out for those first games because all the playing games are going to be on Sunday. We're going to play a Bill Simmons special, Guess the Lines, with Phil Doss. Do you want to guess the lines of the first 2 games? So Celtics, Orlando. Or do you want? Hey, you know what? We'll even get better. We'll do series prices, but quickly, what do you want to guess the game 1 line
for the prices of the seeds?
So like, what's the point spread? How many points are what team is favored? Well, the Celtics are favored by. I'll give you that.
Okay, it's gonna be like plus 15.
You mean minus
15? Yeah,
okay. Close enough. Minus 14 and a half. Okay. And then you want to guess who's favored in Rockets Warriors in game 1? Tight. Ty, do not give away the answer.
-10 Warriors.
No, not -10, but -1.5. It's close.
Oh, okay.
My point being, one, it's gonna be a close series, and two, I think the Warriors will be So just to put in perspective, guess the lines, the series edition. The Warriors are actually the favorites in the series at minus 200, which for people that don't understand, that is essentially in order to win $100, you would have to bet $200. So it's they're a 2-to-1 favorite, essentially, where the Rockets are plus 165, which that would mean if you placed a $100 bet, you would win $165. Teaching Philip here, you're not 21 yet, right?
I am. I'm new to this.
Okay, so you legally can do this.
Yeah.
All right. Responsibly.
Of course.
Keyword responsibly. But just to put in perspective, the Warriors and the Lakers are the same exact sized favorites, same as the Pacers. Nuggets, Clippers are even at 110. Knicks are a 4-to-1 favorite over the Pistons, and then the Celtics are the heaviest favorite at 60-1 at -6,000 over the Orlando Magic. Just show we're at. Show one how wild the West is. And I suspect the Thunder will be a heavy favorite over. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say the Minnesota Timberwolves, not the Minnesota Timberwolves, over the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit.
So when the Grizzlies ultimately beat either the Kings or the Mavericks, because trust me, I think if you're a Mavericks fan, you want this season to be over. And the Kings are just the Kings. Hashtag light the beam. But yeah, fun game last night though between the Warriors and the Grizzlies, which they always are. Fun fact: congratulations, Golden State! You finally get a play-in victory. You were 0-3 all time heading into this, and now you get the win.
About time.
So that's kind of funny to me. But yeah, and then if you really want to deep dive into the Hawks who lost, I mean, Trey Young's probably been better this season despite his shooting being down. He's taken a better role with this team, but they're missing maybe their best player in Jalen Johnson, and as we mentioned yesterday, and I know Trey Young, it just showed the bad sides of Trey Young yesterday, like the bad. The bad's why you might not want Trey Young on your team yesterday. Let's just put it that way.
Was so uncalled for.
I ain't gonna lie. When he picked up the ball and then he kicked a little bit, I thought of was Tracy McGrady kicked the ball to the stands.
Yeah,
I had that moment for him. I was like, if he does, I'm gonna laugh so hard.
Well, I was glad it was a blowout because someone may or may not have just decided to go to sleep right away, and it's like I'm not even gonna risk it because I knew I would get too into the Warriors Memphis game. I was like, I'll watch the condensed game in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I watched it while I was getting ready for the show, which I was so glad I did because it was so good that I was like, oh my God, I'd have been up to like 2 a.m. watching this game and I would have been groggy for the morning warm up. So Orlando wins. Orlando Magic. And Golden State gets the dub, which sets up a fun series. Like, I'm glad Golden State won this game. No offense to Memphis. They've been a dead team walking since they fired their coach. I want Golden State in a fun series, and I really wanted them to play the Lakers just because LeBron versus Curry again. But I honestly think the fact that MA, if you recall, we're gonna get in our 10 days ago, Ime Udoka called Steph a cry with talking crap.
He's crazy.
He called Steph a crybaby in the post-game presser. Dylan Brooks is Dylan Brooks. I mean, I don't know which series is more likely to start a fight. This might be my favorite prop if we can make it. Who will have more kerfuffles in their series? Knicks Pistons or Warriors Rockets?
I don't know. That's a good one.
I'm like that would be I'm leaning Knicks Pistons.
I'm going with the Pistons.
I mean, regardless. Just anything with Isaiah Stewart.
Yeah, you got Isaiah Stewart out there with Black Forces. I'm going with him.
With Black Air Forces, is that what you just said? Yep. Yeah. So obviously the dream tag team of Ron Holland and Isaiah Stewart, which Isaiah Stewart collects trying to fight stars like Infinity Stones, as I mentioned when he tried to fight Steph Curry earlier this season. He tried to go after LeBron. He's got Steph. Like, it's just funny to see. But we'll do a playoff preview probably Friday as they kick off. Then as well, next week we'll have a mock draft. Next week, keyword next week. But a lot in line. All right, when we come back here on the morning warm up, I mean, I would say Philip gets redemption, but you know what? I've given up hope.
Space.
Time for Philip to embarrass himself with Today in Sports History next year on the morning warm up.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Volkswagen. Get ready to fall head over heels for the perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terrybw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
Are you ready to move to the next chapter of your life? That means you're ready for us. Hi, I'm Moyanne Harding, the region's only total turnkey realtor and interior designer. We'll come to you and help you decide what you're ready to let go of and bring you top dollar for those unwanted items. Most importantly, we'll sell your most valuable investment, your home. With decades of experience, just hand your keys to us and let the stress melt away. Call me today and book your consultation, www.moyanne.com.
Moyanne Harding, brokered by Keller Williams.
Hi, Gary the Third here, and I'm excited to say spring has arrived at Gary's Garden Center with great plants and a great selection. Gary's has seasonal color flowers along with vegetables, 60-plus varieties of herbs, perennial flowers, and much more. With friendly service and great advice, we are always happy to answer your questions. Visit Gary's Garden Center at 794 Leesville Road for all your lawn and garden needs. Stop by, say hi, and take a look around.
When you're voted one of the best plumbers according to Lynchburg Living magazine, you want to hire the best. Sullivan Plumbing wants the best plumbers to join our award-winning team. Do you have a clean driving record? Do you have at least 4 years plumbing experience? Then you're a 5-star recruit, and Sullivan Plumbing would love to meet with you. Take the first step. Call Sullivan Plumbing in downtown Lynchburg or email sullivanplumbing@gmail.com.
Do you know what a cold climate heat pump is? They're a new generation of heat pumps from Tara Lee Mosley that provide substantially more heat than traditional heat pumps, even when it's 5 degrees outside. This means your electrical auxiliary heat runs less, saving you big time on your electric bill. And with the recent spikes in electric utility rates, that's crucial. Plus, these new heat pumps qualify you for a $2,000 federal tax credit. Contact Tara Lee Mosley for more info on the new cold climate heat pumps.
Head to lynchburg-hillcats.com to lock in your tickets for the Lynchburg Hillcats this season. Now here's VTR in Sports.
Good morning. We are just getting your day started here on VTRN Sports with the morning warm-up. Stay connected with the show at Trey Lyle VT and Ty Tracy 90 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen wherever you are with the VTRN Sports app or watch the show live on YouTube at youtube.com/VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, back to the morning warm-up.
7:27 on this Wednesday, April 16th. Welcome to the morning warm-up. Trey Lyle, Philip Dawes, Ty Tracy, who's decided to give himself a haircut during the break. He's turning our studio into a barbershop. Just, and if we did go to the barbershop, you know what's one thing they would say? They would hound Philip on how bad he is at sports history.
Ooh.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Many doubted we'd ever see it. But here it is. The return to glory.
It's time for Today in Sports History.
Seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
I go length of the court with Archie Diacono. 3 seconds at midcourt. Jenkins gives it to Jenkins for the championship.
Let's hear what Ty really knows about what happened on this day in sports history.
All right. 4 topics, 2 birthdays.
Let's go. Let's go. Locked in.
Starting in 1929, this team became the first Major League Baseball team to permanently feature numbers on the backs of uniforms. The numbers they used corresponded to the position in the batting order. Guess the team. It's like 6 teams you can choose from.
Oh. Yankees.
You got it.
Hey.
I was going to explain. This explains why the Yankees basically have, like, you know, obviously the 1920s, they were really good. But the you're not allowed to wear a single digit for the Yankees now, except 0, because every single digit is retired in the Yankees, 1 through 9. But that's because they've had great players.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like fun fact, you know, who's the last one to wear a single digit was Derek Jeter, because he wore 2. That was the last one. All right. 1-0. Stop the count.
Stop the count.
1958. This man, who has a famous drink named after him, edged Doug Ford to win his first Masters. Your hint is has a famous drink.
Arnold Palmer.
Correct.
All right.
It's the only way he was going to get it. The only way he was going to get it.
All
right. Next 2 are 2 retirements.
Okay.
First, in 1980, this man retired from professional tennis. He was born in Richmond, Virginia. He won Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, and the Australian Open. There's a whole building named after him, and he has a statue in Richmond.
Arthur Ashe.
That's correct. Okay, so here we go. In 2003, Washington Wizards blank played his final NBA game.
MJ.
Oh my God, he went 4-0.
Let's go. We back in business.
I had to go really easy today. All right, 2 birthdays, which you should get. You should have a 6-0 day. I made this really easy. Born on this date in 1947 was this Hall of Fame center who's a 6-time NBA champion, Finals MVP in 71 and 85, 6-time NBA MVP, and a 19-time All-Star.
Shaq Diesel.
In 1947.
Bill Russell.
Again, 1947.
Is that too early?
That was too late.
Too late. Oh, Kareem.
I'm not counting it, but it's Kareem.
Okay.
Bill Russell played in the 60s, dude.
Okay.
Bill Russell.
I don't think he said Shaq at first.
Bill Russell was born in 1934.
I was getting caught up with the championships.
Yeah, double that. That's how many Bill won. He won 11.
Yeah.
He said Shaq.
Shaq. I was like, buddy, Shaq, you got a long.
I was getting too cocky.
All right, born in All right, Bill Bell. Oh, I just gave it away. All right, so it's also Bill Belichick's birthday today. Because I was about to say Bill Belichick 1985. I was like, Bill is not born in 1985. He was born on this date in 1952, and obviously he's 73. He's 73 years old, and then his girlfriend was born
right after me.
No, she's 24, so right before, a little bit before you. But so I'm not counting Bill, so we'll just get rid of that off the record. I'm not giving you Kareem because you guessed Shaq was born in 1947.
I just didn't hear that part.
You literally, you're doing so good. And I think, honestly, he like killed it all by saying Shaq.
I was like, Shaq? I was like, he was more like the 60s, dude.
Philip, were you someone that took test when you took test and you like didn't read the first part of the question?
Yeah, I'm reading. If I see one word that looks good to me, I'm choosing the answer.
I did the same thing. Yeah. I wouldn't read the whole question, but again, It would have been understandable if I didn't say, if that wasn't the first word out of my mouth, wasn't the year, it was 1947. By the way, 25-25, Philip now.
Okay.
After a 4-1 day.
That even.
So, all right, vibe check. You feeling better?
Yeah, I feel brought down to earth after the center one, but definitely on the rise. My confidence is back.
Your confidence is back. We'll see.
Almost there.
Guaranteed 0-6 day tomorrow.
Oh, man.
Guaranteed 0-6 day tomorrow.
Yeah, my sport history teacher at OU is a big tennis woman, so I know more than enough about that.
Well, we had it. Arthur Ashe was a fun one to do. That one I dedicated to good old Ed. If, there's not any Ty Gibbs history I can do really, but so I had to do tennis history for him there as well. All right, looking ahead, the NBA playoffs are a few days away. Well, I guess technically they're going right now. We had the play-in games tonight, the 9-10 matchups, and the womp-womp games I like to call them. And we talked about those yesterday. But looking at these, to me, the most intriguing matchup is the 4-5 in the Western Conference between the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Clippers, because you look at this, the Clippers have played arguably the best basketball out of any team in the league in the last 2 months of the season. And then Denver, there's this turmoil around them with, obviously firing Mike Malone, firing their GM. Dave Adelman is now their head coach. But through all of that, they have the best player in the world in David Adelman, is their head coach in Nikola Jokic. And you look at it, as we mentioned here, the betting market has this as an even series. Obviously, the 4-5 typically an even series. I would argue in the East, if Dame was playing, which that was another thing we didn't say, Dame unavailable to play in game 1, which I don't think he's going to play in this series at all. I'd be shocked if he plays in the playoffs at all. But Denver, if they have a healthy starting 5, they have one of, if not the best starting 5 in the NBA, because their starting 5 of Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, MPJ, Aaron Gordon, Jokic is really good. Basically, it's going to be the starting 5 of Denver, including Nikola Jokic. Can they outplay the depth of the Los Angeles Clippers? Because the Clippers have really good depth outside of Harden, who I don't trust in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Kawhi, I trust if he's on the floor. I just don't know if I trust him being on the floor. But Ivica Zubac has been great this season. He's averaged a double-double, 16 and 12. They have Norm Powell, who's been good, who was getting some all-star love, which he didn't make the all-star team, but, started this season. They have Nick Batum, who should be healthy. They have Bogdan Bogdanovic as well. They have, they're a really deep team, actually. They have Derek Jones Jr. and obviously, get excited, Ben Simmons they have as well. And, get excited for that. That's a joke, Ty. That was a joke. That was clearly a joke. But everyone in here should have seen the look that Ty was trying to give me. But I'm fascinated by this series. I'm fascinated by game 1. I lean Denver. Denver is a 2.5-point favorite in the first game. But this is the most intriguing series because to me, if Denver wins, David Adelman basically is getting a job. If not, the coaching search gets wide open. And I think the Clippers have overachieved this year at 50-32, but they're arguably the second best team in the Western Conference, especially how they played of late. They're the number 1 team in the net. They were the number 1 offensive and the number 1 defensive team in the league in the second half of this season. But with that all said, do I trust, if you just remove the players and just gave me the numbers, I should pick the Clippers, right? I should pick the Clippers. The Clippers are like the Cleveland Browns of the NBA. In the words of Charles Barkley, I've been fat, I've been skinny, I've been old, I've been young, and the Clippers have still sucked. And it's just hard for me to pick against Jokic. I have taken this theory for my whole life as I've gotten older in playoff series, I say, which team has the best player? And I typically pick them unless the other side has an overwhelming advantage, i.e., when the Warriors had Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant, and Klay Thompson on one team, I'm not picking the Cavs.
Oh, yeah.
Like, outside of that, I'd pick the Cavs because they have LeBron James when they had prime LeBron James. So what are your thoughts, Philip, on this series?
I think the Clippers need to come out, again, one of the top offensives. If they can come out early on offense, just be consistent, just strike after strike, they'll be okay. They'll get their – I feel like the Nuggets have to run more sets, more plays through like Jamal Murray and Jokic, even though they're going to get theirs, obviously. But they can't just come out and hoop like the Clippers can. But if the Clippers can find a way to just dismantle Jokic and Jamal Murray, and Jamal Murray's had an up and down season. He hasn't been.
Got to be healthy.
Been. Yeah.
The key is being healthy.
Exactly.
Which you could argue the same thing like with Kawhi. Like Jamal's health has been sketchy at best. I think personally, if you're the Nuggets, your goal is, all right, with 5 minutes left in the game, we want it to be close, and we're just going to run two-man game with Jokic and Murray, and that's most unguardable, two-man action in the league, and we should probably prevail most times. All we have to prevail is, to me, while James Harden does not have as big of a role, because I think they're going to play through Kawhi Leonard, and I have to give credit. Ty Lue, to me, is like one of the best playoff coaches of all time. I mean, you could argue he pulled off the greatest coaching job in NBA history in that 3-1 comeback. Like, it's going to be interesting because Nikola Jokic is having maybe the best season we've seen from a player ever in terms of 30, 12, and 10, which he's top 3 in points, rebounds, and assists. Like, statistically one of the best seasons we've ever seen. And it's kind of nuts that, I mean, he is the best player in the world. I'm okay in saying that. And it's the best player in the world versus maybe the team outside of the Thunder in the West playing the best right now. And I think it's most intriguing. All right, when we come back, Bryson Gordon, Liberty losing a lot on the defensive line. How will that affect him? We'll talk with Bryson about that next, plus his thoughts on Masters Sunday next on the Morning Warm-Up.
At the Trost Law Group, the only basis upon which we judge ourselves is by the client's success. Everyone on our team understands our responsibility to our clients, which is why we'll do everything we can to be on top of our game for you. If you've been injured in an accident, you need a team who's focused on how they can benefit you. If you've been injured as a result of someone else's negligence, call the Trost Law Group at 777-HURT. That's 777-HURT, and put us to work for you.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
When you're voted one of the best plumbers according to Lynchburg Living magazine, you want to hire the best. Sullivan Plumbing wants the best plumbers to join our award-winning team. Do you have a clean driving record? Do you have at least 4 years plumbing experience? Then you're a 5-star recruit, and Sullivan Plumbing would love to meet with you. Take the first step. Call Sullivan Plumbing in downtown Lynchburg or email sullivanplumbing@gmail.com.
Hi, Gary the Third here, and I'm excited to say spring has arrived at Gary's Garden Center with great plants and a great selection. Gary's has seasonal color flowers along with vegetables, 60-plus varieties of herbs, perennial flowers, and much more. With friendly service and great advice, we are always happy to answer your questions. Visit Gary's Garden Center at 794 Leesville Road for all your lawn and garden needs. Stop by, say hi, and take a look around.
Allstate agent Donovan Howell is now serving Lynchburg. He lives and works here just like you. And with all kinds of local insurance advice, Donovan is someone you can count on to help you protect all that's good in your life. Donovan makes it easy to save on the quality protection you need, and I'll even help you do the switching and the paperwork for you.
Call or come by the Donovan Howell Allstate office in Windhurst today.
Are you ready to move to the next chapter of your life? That means you're ready for us. Hi, I'm Moyanne Harding, the region's only total turnkey realtor and interior designer. We'll come to you and help you decide what you're ready to let go of and bring you top dollar for those unwanted items. Most importantly, we'll sell your most valuable investment, your home. With decades of experience, just hand your keys to us and let the stress melt away. Call me today and book your consultation, www.moyanne.com.
Moyanne Harding, brokered by Keller Williams.
Welcome to the Villas at Oakwood. Our stunning community offers spacious, modern, wheelchair-accessible villas with top-of-the-line amenities. Enjoy views from the Peaks of Otter from your patio home. Connect with neighbors at our exclusive clubhouse. Discover your dream home today. Experience the maintenance-free lifestyle that you deserve. Visit us behind the Bedford Memorial Hospital, online at thevillasatoakwood.com, or just contact Robin Lee Sage at 434-238-4477.
Good morning. We are just getting your day started here on VTRN Sports with the morning warm-up. Stay connected at Trey Lyle VT and Ty Tracy 90 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen wherever you are with the VTRN Sports app, or watch the show live on YouTube at youtube.com/VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, back to the morning warm-up.
7:45 on this beautiful Wednesday, April 16th. Welcome to the morning warm-up. Joining me now, as he does every Wednesday, is Bryson Gordon at Bryson Gordon on Twitter. The man covers Liberty Athletics for newsadvance.com. But first, we're going to talk about our true passion. Well, his true passion. I just enjoyed it on Sunday. If you're watching on our stream, you can see the flags behind him. He's rocking a Masters hat. So we're going to talk a little golf to start out. Bryson, we talked about a lot on Monday. I said it was the best Sunday at the Masters since 2019 with Tiger Woods winning. I think if I had to pick one, I'd pick 2019 just because it was Tiger's moment. But your thoughts on Masters Sunday when Rory McIlroy finally, and it truly feels like finally, wins the Masters?
Yeah, it was a long time coming as somebody who's followed and rooted for McIlroy since I was in high school. It's probably partly the reason I even got into golf. We kind of, I was in high school and he was really making his run in 2011 to 2014. I think, you compared it to 2019, I think the finish was obviously better than 2019's finish because Tiger had kind of settled it by the time he got to 17 and 18 with that big birdie he made on 16 that year. But you talk about finish. If you're a McIlroy fan and you've kind of seen his struggles, closely for the last 11 years in these major championships, he had to go through it that way, right? He had to go get it that way where it felt like he didn't play 18 holes. It felt like he played 500 holes. It felt like he lived 100 lives on Sunday. It was up, it was down. I was pacing the house. I'm sure anybody that had any kind of rooting interest in him couldn't even watch. There were times where I threatened to go for a walk and just turn the whole thing off. So it was an awesome Sunday. And I think that's the best thing about the Masters, right? Is like it just delivers. You don't ever, there's hardly ever any other events where you get the leaderboard gravity where your high quality players kind of traditionally always end up at the top on Sunday. That's the Masters for you. And so even when you think that it's not going to be interesting, right? It was a 4-shot lead for a moment on the back nine on Sunday. You look up the next hole and he's tied for the lead. So I wouldn't have had it any other way as a guy who's rooted for McIlroy, struggles all these years. And I'm sure he's got some more good golf in him now that he's got the monkey off his back.
Yeah, you could tell he released that monkey off his back in terms of just the emotion he showed on after that final putt went in that he won, where he's just weeping and then screaming at the ground. Which, shout out, by the way, I think I mentioned this yesterday. Like one of the best photos of that reaction was taken by maybe the best baseball player ever in Ken Griffey Jr. Like the fact that those two worlds collided in that moment is insane to me. But let's get to the Liberty Flames. A lot going on with Liberty. We could talk in a moment about the portal additions on the basketball side. Obviously adding RJ Jones. They added another player as well, in JJ Harper from West Liberty. So, but let's talk about the big losses for Liberty football, headlined by TJ Bush. And you add in the fact that Jay Hardy is leaving, and then it joins Chris Body is also leaving. How big of a loss is this for Liberty in terms of their defensive line room?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. You think about the top line loss in TJ Bush, who, of course, draws all the headlines. But whenever you look at it as a group, right, Bush, Hardy, and Bodie, it's not a small group. It's 93 combined games. Whenever you put them on you put all their games on a sheet and add them up. So this is a lot of experience. But the Bush loss is obviously way bigger than the other two. You think about you're probably not going to be able to find a talent as good as him in the portal. You're definitely not going to be able to find somebody who can immediately impact your defense as great as he did. With the caliber of talent that he was. And so it leaves you scrambling here in this short portal window that opened today. Maybe Liberty's going to have to look, outside to find some guys. There has been some excitement about some of the guys during spring camp that are going to be filling some of these roles. You think about on the edges, Gavin Askew, Sam Cohen is somebody that even TJ Bush mentioned during spring camp as guys who in his room had looked like they had started to kind of figure things out as true freshmen. And so those guys are going to be key, up the middle, Cam Collins, Mike Jarvis, Nate Paroli. Paroli's a walk-on who got a lot of love during spring camp from the coaches. Maybe that's a cool story to replace some of the guys at the middle. But you mentioned it is such a huge loss, and it's a bad timing of the loss. Also, maybe if this happens in the January portal, you might be able to swing a few things and get a guy in. But with this kind of 9-10 day portal window here, you have to work so fast, and I don't think you can work fast enough and find a talent quality enough to replace what you're losing in Bush. And also somebody who, he speaks to the media. He's a guy who's an external leader, at least, to people who follow the team and to keep an eye on the team. So it's a big loss, and it's a loss that a couple months ago sounded like it wasn't going to be a situation they were going to lose somebody. And so I'm sure for Liberty fans it's confusing, but it's also it's college football.
Were you surprised? Because I texted you about it yesterday, like you said, everything happened the last minute. I mean, I had him staying for one more year than leaving, but it was just out of nowhere, expected. We was talking about yesterday.
Yeah, so I think that I had honestly had and I thought he might have, Bush might have been out earlier this year. I thought that potentially there was a chance for him to go in the January portal and maybe go to a bigger school. Obviously, I still think he's going to play some high level football this year. He's probably going to play at the top end of P4, I would imagine. I think that whenever he came back for spring camp and said a few things during camp where he was talking about the hunger of the team, maybe we had a 13-1 year to 8-4. We want to fix that next year. You start to think, okay, maybe this guy's bought in. He's going to stick around. When Bodie announced his departure a couple days ago, TJ Bush tweeted out, said, "Man, this one hurts." I don't think that's anything to hold against TJ Bush. I think that's just the nature of college football, where perhaps some things change in a matter of days, maybe even in a matter of hours. And his situation looks a lot different for himself. And so I think it's probably a little bit surprising, just the timing, but to lose anybody to the transfer portal, you can't be surprised these days. I mean, you almost have to expect your best guys, after a year or two to kind of be, having eyes elsewhere. That's just kind of the game that college football and college basketball really has become also.
I know that's why we got a lucrative NIL deal for Philip to join us here at VCRN Sports.
Locked in.
But you look at this. Obviously, are you expecting any other notable names from Liberty to enter the portal, or do you think obviously TJ Bush is probably on the short list, the best player on the team? Anyone to look out for that could enter the portal, or do you have a sense of no? This is probably settled roster wise, and we're going to look more for additions than subtractions.
I think it would probably feel more settled roster wise. I think a lot of the guys who would be candidates to go have already gone, or potentially, have kind of found themselves in situations now where they're going to have some playing time. I think the loss on the defensive line is so important, right? Because it was an area that we had talked about, through spring ball and even at the very end of last year, that if all these guys came back, it would be a team that would really lean on its defensive line and lean on its front seven for the most part. Well, now that's completely out the window. Yeah.
Sorry for cutting you off, Bryson. That probably would carry the team this coming up season as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think, with the loss of not just Bush, but Hardy and Bodie, those are two guys that are up the middle that were going to be huge. Obviously, Hardy, somebody who, struggled to stay healthy this past season, but has been really high quality when he's been on the field in Lynchburg. And so these are tough losses as it is. I'm sure that, guys along the defensive line, maybe if you had your eyes in the portal or had some communications with some other schools, I'm sure that stops whenever you realize the playing time that you might be able to get up front. And so I think there's gonna be some settling. I think there's gonna be some more adding. Chadwell has talked nonstop throughout spring ball and even kind of right after the end of the season that they would be continuing to add. Offensive line was a position that they've already added in the portal. They had a couple of transfers come in, DJ Jackson off the top of my head, on the defensive line in the portal too. So I think there's going to be more movement in, potentially not more movement out though.
Do want to mention quickly about baseball before we get to basketball. Liberty got a nice win yesterday against Virginia, 10-3 in Charlottesville. They actually sweep the two games against Virginia this season. However, kind of struggling in conference play at 5-7. This is a team that, if you look at their non-conference record, has been really good this year. And I would say if they were better in the conference, they would have an outside shot at an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament. But how important is it just to get the ship righted? You touched on Dallas Baptist. I think this is like the only team. They're in CUSA, which they're a really good program in baseball. But talk about Liberty baseball in terms of trying to bounce back in conference play, especially this weekend against Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, you have no idea what to expect from this Liberty team kind of on a weekly basis at this point when it comes to their mix of conference play versus non-conference play. They have the same amount of wins against ACC teams that they have in Conference USA play, which I think is the craziest stat in the world, considering they've played 12 Conference USA games and they've won 5, and they've played 7 ACC games and they've won 5. So, the midweek can be a little interesting depending on who you play. Some teams won't, give you their best starters. They won't give you any of their best pitchers. They'll throw some crazy lineups out there. I don't think that's necessarily the case with Virginia. I know they didn't throw their best pitchers, but their lineup has been solid in both matchups against Liberty. So, righting the ship is the right term for it. This was a brutal past weekend for Liberty when they got swept by Western Kentucky. That was a weekend they had an opportunity to maybe win a couple games and start to actually build this at large tournament resume. And when you fall 3 times on your home field to obviously we talked about Dallas Baptist being the best team in Conference USA, but Western Kentucky seems to be the team that keeps just winning. So whenever you have an opportunity to halt their momentum and maybe make your NCAA tournament resume better, well, they got swept. And those are games that you can win all the midweek games you want, and those help your NCAA tournament resume. But whenever you can't win your conference games, that leaves you in a pretty troubling predicament, especially when a lot of these conference teams, aren't necessarily as high in the RPI that some of these non-conference wins are coming against. And so it's going to be a huge weekend down the road. Obviously Louisiana Tech doesn't quite get the hype that Western Kentucky and Dallas Baptist does in Conference USA, but that's a really good baseball program. I mean, year after year, they've been, traditionally a power. They were really strong last year. And so getting a weekend series win this weekend is probably going to be imperative for any kind of, NCAA tournament at large bid hopes that are kind of hanging around for this Flames team.
Speaking of additions, we talked about subtractions in football. We talked about trying to add wins in baseball. Liberty basketball, adding players. Let's see what I did there. JJ Harper from West Liberty, a D2 school, joins the team. 6'5", combo guard forward, whatever you want to call him. Tons of experience. He averaged 15.6 points last year, shooting 35% from 3. They also were able to add a former 3-star from Virginia Tech in RJ Jones, as he is a 6'8", former 4-star, but he was a 3-star transfer. Played only in 5 games for the Hokies last season. What are your early thoughts on these 2 additions for Liberty, and are you expecting any more additions to the roster?
Yeah, it seems like they're still working. I think there's some pieces that need to be filled. There's still just a little bit of gray area around Taylor Peter and Javon Moffmer. It sounds like it's probably not going to be a case where they're going to come back. I think that they're still holding out potentially for some legal issues. I think the additions are kind of deja vu to last year. Those were kind of the first things that popped up in my mind whenever Liberty landed RJ Jones and JJ Harper. Just think about the comparisons to some guys that Liberty got in the portal last year. Obviously, Richie McKay had incredible success with Moffmer and Peter, dipping down below the Division I ranks and getting them from Arkansas Tech for Peter and then for Moffmer from Cedarville. JJ Harper fits that exact mold. I mean, he spent his entire career below the D1 level, and he's been really high quality at it. And I think you can almost just kind of one-for-one pluck Moffmer Hoffman out of the lineup and put Harper in. I think they feel like a pretty clean swap. They're almost the same size, same length, pretty much the same experiences in college. And then when you look at RJ Jones, obviously a very high ceiling guy, a 4-star prospect out of high school, highly touted, couldn't quite get into the rotation at Virginia Tech and just played in a handful of games. It really reminds you of Isaiah Enan, who's somebody who came in last year with some injury history, was a highly touted prospect out of high school. I believe he was a 4-star out of high school as well. And he battled injuries, during his stops during college. But I think this is kind of the similar type where we're not quite sure what we actually have, but we have a guy with an extremely high ceiling who has a really long wingspan. He's a guy who can play center. He's actually listed as a center at Virginia Tech. And so this is a guy who we're not quite sure we have, but we can get him in our system. We can kind of mold him into our offense, into our defense, and we can figure out what he has because he has 3 years of eligibility. And so I think these are two additions that you're starting to see. What Richie McKay wants to do in the transfer portal year after year is find, obviously guys who have played a lot of games at the Division II level and have have a really good reputation for themselves. And then you want to find guys who can potentially step in and just give you a little bit of a high ceiling mix.
At Bryson Gordon on Twitter, buddy. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on.
That was Bryson Gordon. Tomorrow, Andrew Alex, VT Scoop, and the Hokie Hangover podcast joins us. Plus, we'll talk more about the NBA playoffs as they are ticking down. They start on Friday, so we'll talk about that as well more tomorrow. Philip, good job today.
Yes, sir.
That will do it for the morning warm-up. Everyone have a great rest of your Wednesday.